Hello! It's the start of a new season and I'm so excited that FPL is back. I'll be honest, I did need a break over the summer because last season was a bit of an emotional rollercoaster. Foden is not in the squad. I want the ground to just swallow me up. Imagine not owning Haaland and wearing a stupid pink flamingo hat because you're celebrating 1 goal from Chris Wood. I scored a 4th goal. Can you imagine my rank? I'd have kept him. I need someone to log me out of my FPL account, delete it, and then just hit me around the head so I forget this game even exists. So it was nice to take some time to switch off from FPL. I started collecting Topps cards, which I'm spending far too much money on, but that's very enjoyable. Obviously, there was some pre-season drama. The first thing that springs to mind is the AFCON announcement. Had to bring Charles to come and see the cows to cheer him up because he's not happy about the AFCON announcement, which is that we get 5 free transfers just for doing nothing in case someone happens to have 5 AFCON players that are disappearing for the
Which is
tournament.
very unlikely.
Which is very unlikely. And I must say, I'm not really, the changes are going to happen. I'm not too fussed. This one though, I think is poorly thought out. I don't really understand it. And also we were saying, with the double chips, we've already got those double chips, so you could easily wildcard in the first half of the season. Good evening. Coming to you from the future, I need to VAR my comments because there has been a grand
I missed this.
bit of confusion, and I only know this from editing this very video you're watching. I thought that the AFCON situation was that you have your 5 free transfers or potential 5 free transfers, and then FPL give you an additional 5, so you have 10 free transfers in total, which I thought was insane, and I was going mad about this today, wasn't I? I don't care.
You were so against it.
Because I genuinely, the changes happen and I go, oh, okay. And then I get on with my life. This one, I was caught up on. Anyway, it turns out it was up to 5 changes. So the rest of what you're going to see in this clip is me ranting about something I don't fully understand. But now I know what the full story is. I think everyone's overreacting massively because you might get 4 transfers.
Well, I said that on the field, didn't I? I said, we're going to see in a bit, but didn't I say it's only 4 extra transfers? You get 37
I said that myself.
And then you only get an extra 4. I reckon that you can
roll the tape.
On this clip, we can zoom in your face and see you going.
No, I was wearing sunglasses for that exact reason.
Fair enough.
And because I've got a funny blood. What's the word?
Bloodshot eye.
It's not a bloodshot eye. A blood clot? No, it's not a blood clot. Burst blood vessel in my eye. So probably from stressing about the fact that we're going. I thought 10 free transfers. That's a whole wild card basically. Mark Southers, what are you doing? Anyway, it turns out it's fine. Yeah. So. Back to the field. Roll 5 free transfers, then you get another 5, so you have 10 transfers, which is basically a wild card in itself. And it's a lot of chips and transfers. I'll pass you over to Az. Very polite so far, but I know there's a lot of feelings there.
I would argue that I think it is probably well thought out, but it's just not well thought out for us, like people who actually are engaged. It's obviously designed for people who are trailing off around Christmas time, and AFCON's coming in, they've got players and they want to give them a way to take out their... I think it's mostly for Salah, right? They've got a big Egyptian fan base. You have Salah in your team, you realise he's not there, and, you're like, I can't be bothered to work out how to get rid of him. Whereas at least now you've got 5 transfers, you can spread the funds around.
That's true, but again, this is where having all of the additional chips, I think, helps. Because say you've missed out on a couple of game weeks, you're going to have racked up your 5 free transfers. 2 things. I've never lived in a place where there's just cows roaming freely, so this is a thrill in Hitchin. First time I've just seen loose cows. Secondly, I saw a thing that they like classical music, so I'm going to play them some classical music. Obviously I'll have to use royalty free to put over the clip. I want to see if they come over. I'm also going to try maybe some Charlie XCX or something and see if they prefer that.
Violins they like.
Violins, okay. Okay, I don't think they like Vivaldi, so we'll try something else. Oh, as is get. What about some like Star Wars soundtrack or something? We tried, but they barely moved.
Oh.
Haha, that was funny.
And with the new season comes new player prices. Now, I did start vlogging this, but they only teased a couple ahead of the actual launch, so I haven't got a ton of footage, but here's some anyway. Good afternoon, coming to you with some price announcements. I would have filmed earlier, but I hadn't eaten and I was not a human.
Yeah.
But we're back after
Angry.
I wasn't angry, I was just quiet.
Hangry.
Quiet. Anyway, Edison is... No, he's not. Pickford
Good-
is
good start.
5-5, which I think is fine. Justifiable. Yeah, top scorer, why not? Let's make it more competitive.
I suppose. I was thinking 5, but because that means that we're now going to see some 6 million goalkeepers again, I'd imagine. Because Alisson's going to be 6,
Yeah.
whereas he was 5-5 last year. So they're pushing up goalkeepers, which means they're probably pushing up everyone.
Yeah,
which is
defenders
good.
as well.
Yeah.
Well, this was my thing last season about going for Raya. He must have been 5-5 last year, and it was the cheapest route into Arsenal's defence. So we'd be seeing something similar this season with my strategy.
I think Gabriel Saliba, that means it's going to be 6-5.
Yeah,
and Ray's
really.
going to be 6.
Really bulk him up. But then with the defensive changes
I know.
and things, we've got a bigger pool to pick from, and we may be going for it at the back, which is exciting. And then Isak 10-5. I think absolutely fine, justifiable. Is one of my favourite assets in the game, and again, it's going to make it more competitive. Interested to see how much Palmer is. João Pedro, I'm interested in his price. I think so far, so good. Who else do you think will be announced today?
Well, they'll probably do a midfielder and defender, won't they? So it could be Salah. Salah in midfield, and then defence. Well, James Tarkowski, he's the man of the hour, isn't he? Top DEFCON
Very
contributor.
interesting that, because I saw there's the WhatsApp chat now for the Premier League, and it's interesting that Haaland wasn't an option to vote for. So
Yeah, maybe it won't be Salah, that's a good point. Maybe they're keeping it close to their chest.
yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
It could be a Palmer or a Saka then.
I think Palmer would be the one that I
Palmer
would
would be a
go
good
for.
one.
I'm intrigued.
What do you reckon he comes in at?
What was he last year?
He was 10-5 last year.
Oh, but he started off really well and then he kind of flopped. They're going to change it, but I would probably keep him at... I'd like to see him at 9-5, but that might be a bit too harsh.
I actually think without the Club World Cup, they might have dropped him down to 9-5.
Yeah,
but
and then
now that
obviously
all the eyes are on him again,
big game player.
they might drop him down to 10. But then the price, I reckon they'll keep him the same. I think 10-5.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be anything
They
too
won't rise him. I don't think. They won't
exaggerated.
rise him.
They can't justify it.
10 or 10-5.
Cool, heard it here first.
And then this was followed by launch day, which I was so excited for.
Good morning. I managed to break the blender, which Az wasn't best pleased with. But if you can hear that in the background, it's now working. Honestly, the excitement in this household this morning. Salah's price has been announced. Haaland's price has been announced. Salah is 14.5, which I think is completely fair. Haaland at 14. If he doesn't have a very good season, then that's obviously far too much. But we know there's the risk with Haaland that he could just go off. So I think Premier League towers are just bracing themselves for if that happens to make sure he's not underpriced and an absolute steal. It's going to make the Salah Haaland draft near to impossible, but we will see the rest of the pricing. And I think because they've done the announcements so early, I think the game's going to launch today, which is exciting. Are you excited?
I'm buzzing.
He's not very happy with the smoothie situation and he's stressing about his new graphics, which look really good, but there's still a bit more work to do. So he's not like Chuckles Chaz.
Chuckles Chaz. No, I'm angry today.
Gosh, well, glad I brought him into the video, eh?
It went live and I managed to get in before Az. I'm going to go and see. I don't know what my team ID is, so I'm going to take it upstairs and compare with Az and see what he got. It's live!
It was all refreshing. I'm trying to work out how to...
He's in. I got 251, which is better than 665 last season, and it was the first season I actually remembered my team ID. And Az got
441. I'm happy with that.
so that is good, and that is the closest we'll get to a low rank this season.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, that was fun. Now back to work. But to be honest, the game launched and I did not touch my team. I have just left it there to sit. I did hastily put together a draft, which I will show you, that I revealed on FPL Juice, and I'm not very proud of it. This is what I presented to FPL Juice and I don't like it at all, but here we are. So defence, to be honest, not too bad. Gabriel is one that I have swapped out, spoiler. But Neco Williams, Van Dijk, and then Sanchez, feeling okay about that. Then the midfield, again, not too bad. Rodgers has gone because of the injury scare. Palmer and Salah, I think, are just in every single draft at this point. And then Nonto, there's part of me that thinks it would be really fun to have an attacking player from a newly promoted side, but I'll probably need a little bit more time before I do take the leap there. Then Strand Larson, Watkins, Welbeck. Welbeck is the one that has gotten the chop because I'm just not feeling fully confident on him. I'm sure he will score, and there were times last season where I talked myself out of bringing him in, and then he ended up going on quite a decent run, but For now, I need to see a little bit more from Brighton. And then we have got the bench. Here we've got, where are we? Pembele, that he is just there, placeholder. Then we've got 2 Andersons, and I think that could have been more just because they were both called Anderson. I thought it was fun. But I do think Fulham is being overlooked, whether that's an attacker or a defender. So maybe some Fulham assets could come in at some point. And then I went for King because I wanted that bench spot to just sit there, and I thought King sounded strong and confident. So that's the starting 11 and the bench, and as you can see, it's not the greatest piece of work. So let's have a look at my actual team selection that I have worked on for I'd say I took a good day or two to really think about it and change whatever this mess is into something maybe a little bit more practical. This is the team currently, so I will throw in the usual caveat that this is not set in stone and that changes will be made. There's a lot happening between now and the deadline, including the Community Shield, which is on later this afternoon. So I may change this team entirely to accommodate extra Palace assets or Liverpool assets. But for now, we will start off with the goalkeeper, and I've got Sanchez there. Sanchez was an absolute no-brainer to me after watching the Club World Cup. He was incredible, and some of the saves he made were exquisite. That's not a word that I would usually use to describe footballers, but he impressed me so much. So I've gone for Sanchez. The only thing that makes me a little bit concerned is that Colwill injury. But that's something I think I'll monitor over the next couple of days and maybe change him for someone else. If you're new to the channel, I am a Chelsea fan and I find it quite hard sometimes having Chelsea assets in my team. I definitely become a lot less patient with them. But if I have a bad game week and Chelsea have also done badly, it feels like double the suffering. Suffering's probably a bit too strong, but it doesn't put me in the best mood. So I try to avoid Chelsea assets, but I'm feeling positive about us this season. So I'm investing. Sanchez is there. I will also, whoever ends up being my goalkeeper will be very much a set and forget keeper. Did it last season. I started off with Raya, then I ended up with Pickford, and I did no rotation whatsoever. There'll be a £4 million keeper on the bench, and that is that. I find it a lot easier because I always end up playing the wrong keeper. There's bench points. It gets me frustrated and blah, blah, blah. So I try and give myself a little bit of an easier ride. So Sanchez is there for now, could potentially change. Coming into my defence, we've got Porro, Neco Williams, and Van Dijk. We'll start off with Porro. He's the one that I've probably got the biggest question mark over. And originally I did have Gabriel here, but it felt like having 2 premium defenders at 6 million felt a little bit too excessive. There's 2 sides to it though. One is that I suspect I will definitely want an Arsenal defender in my team at some point. So maybe I just start with one and then I avoid any price rises and I'm ahead of the curve. But equally, the opening fixtures don't look that great. Now, I would really like to have one for game week 2. But otherwise, the fixtures are just a bit mixed. They play Man U in the opening game week, and Man U have looked really attacking, so I don't see a clean sheet being there. Also, I'm going to talk about DEFCON, and I'm trying not to get too focused or hyper-fixated on DEFCON points and focus instead on clean sheets. But Gabriel would have only gained 4 points with DEFCON, so maybe I go for a cheaper player that's got more likelihood of getting the DEFCON points, and then even if they don't get a clean sheet, we come away with something. I'm not sure. But anyway, Porro's there now, so let's talk about him. I had him last season for a big chunk of the season, probably for a little bit too long. He had 28 starts and he only managed to keep 6 clean sheets in that time. Now, in the context, Spurs weren't having the best season in the Premier League, finishing 17th, and it's amazing they managed to stay in and still win a trophy in Europe, so hats off to them. But Porro did score 2 goals and get 6 assists, so I like him for that attacking threat. And also with Maddison now Son's gone, he's going to be on even more set pieces, I assume. And I did love owning Porro when you see him taking a corner. And I seem to find myself at a Spurs match every single season, so it's nice having an asset that I can follow. The Porro's there now, opening fixture against Burnley, stunning. It's at home. It would be nice to have a Spurs asset in that one. Next up, we've got Neco Williams, and there's a bit of a question mark over this because I am tempted by Milenkovic. Milenkovic did so well for me last season, but it's the price tag. I can save 0.5 million by going for Neco Williams, and he would have been an option for me at the start of last season, but I was worried he was a rotation risk. He ended up with 28 starts in the end, registering 1 goal and 3 assists. Milenkovic, though, started 37 games and ended the season with 5 goals and 2 assists. So there is 0.5 million between them, but I've just got a slight fear that Milenkovic's price will rise and then I won't be able to get to him from Neco Williams. Whereas if I start with Milenkovic and then Neco Williams is the one to go for, I can easily transfer down. But for now, I've gone with him, and again, that could change. But I think that's definitely going to be a Forest defender. And then we've got Van Dijk. Now, this one was the absolute easiest pick for me. It would have been Trent had he stayed at Liverpool. So this feels like a nice sideways step. A really good defender, playing for the league champions, who kept the most clean sheets last season. Solid for starts and minutes. I was a little bit concerned about his absence, but apparently he's ill, and Slot said he should be well enough for the Community Shield, which is happening later today. So hopefully you're watching this and you're also watching Van Dijk play at the same time and put on a really, really good performance. I'm trying again not to get too fixated on DEFCON, but he would have gained 22 points, followed by Saliba, who would have had 12. So it's a sizable gap and another push that's making me want to go for Van Dijk, because not only is there good clean sheet potential, but also there's DEFCON points. So that's the defence. Van Dijk at the moment is probably the most set. Well, he is definitely the most set. I'll definitely be starting the season with him. And then the other three potentially could change. In midfield, we have got Palmer, Salah, Anderson and Brennan Johnson. Palmer is currently my vice-captain with Salah as captain. Palmer is in so many teams. Last time I checked, 54.8%. So I think it's a safe option to go with him. He's also at a really luxurious price point where it's easy to transfer over to another player if I need to. I'll be honest though, he wasn't on my radar until the Club World Cup. I felt like he fell off a bit towards the end of last season. And in the final game week, I did not expect him to be in my Game Week 1 team. But the Club World Cup won me over. He is in the team. I think he'll start off strong as well. He scored against Palace in the last 3 games against them, and he's created the most chance against Palace than he has any other team last season. I could be being a bit pessimistic about him, and again, this is the Chelsea fan in me, just being a little bit more critical of Chelsea players. But I need to think of it objectively. He's nailed, he's on penalties, he's been one of the top scoring players in the past 2 seasons since playing for Chelsea. So it probably is a no-brainer to go for him. And the opening 6 game weeks have such nice fixtures for Chelsea, and I definitely want an attacker there. So I'll go with Palmer, and then if it ends up being a different Chelsea attacker or someone else, again, I can transfer down to go to them. And I think in terms of ownership, it's safer to go with him in case he does go absolutely mad, because if I don't have him, that will be painful. And then Salah, he's my captain, and I feel like probably not that much to say. Highest scoring player last season, and he always gets a return on the opening day, and he has done since he joined Liverpool in 2017. Plus, they're playing against Bournemouth, who have lost Kepa, Huijsen and Kerkez this summer. So I'm thinking defensively, they're going to be a lot weaker, and it's time for Salah to shine. The only thing I'm a little bit worried about is not having Wirtz. And again, Community Shield later on today. Let's see how they're playing and who is the top scorer from that. If there are any goals, who knows? Palace might keep a clean sheet. I don't see that happening, but stranger things have happened. So Salah definitely, again, probably set and forget captain for the foreseeable. Then we have Anderson, and 3 things draw me to Anderson. Firstly, I can't afford Morgan Gibbs-White or Chris Wood with my current draft, so this is the cheaper route into that Forest attack. Secondly, Forest have got really nice opening fixtures, which I'd like to take advantage of. They've got Brentford, Palace, West Ham. They then have Arsenal, but then they have back-to-back game weeks against promoted sides, which I can see them doing well in. By then, I think it's around game week 5, I may even bring Chris Wood into my team, depending on how well he's doing this season. Finally, he is a defensive contribution machine. And I know I said I'm not going to talk about or dwell on defensive contributions, but that was the defence. We're focusing on clean sheets there. Whereas the midfielders, if I can get an extra way into finding points, I'm going to go for it because I need more help this season. Last season, he averaged 13.39 per 90, which meant he hit the midfield threshold 18 separate times. That could be a really big game changer for your rank, or for my rank personally, where every point really did matter. The only concern I do have about Forest is, well, actually 2 concerns. One is the absence of Elanga. When that got announced, I was a bit worried about Forest's attack. And we've seen in pre-season, they're not really creating that much. I think they've scored 1 goal in the whole of pre-season, which is not the best going. When Morgan Gibbs-White was rumoured to be going to Spurs, I thought it was over for Forest for this season. But luckily, they've managed to keep hold of him. But also the fact that they are playing in Europe this season, I think they're going to suffer from a bit of fatigue, and there'll probably be fairly heavy rotation. But for the opening couple of game weeks, that doesn't really matter, and maybe I'll just transfer Anderson out following the Sunderland fixture and bring in someone else. Who knows? Loads can happen between now and then. And then finally, Brennan Johnson. This is the one that has the biggest question mark over it. I really, really like Brennan Johnson as an asset, and I have a bit of bias there because I just think he's great and I've got a soft spot for him. He's similar to, who else? Strand Larson, John McGinn, Chris Wood last season. There's all these players that you just have there's a spark there. There's just something that makes you want to bring them into your FPL team. He did manage to get 11 goals and 6 assists last season, and that was from only 24 starts. He was actually Spurs' top scorer, but I don't feel like that's anything to really brag about considering Spurs had a pretty woeful season. He has already scored it's nearly the end of pre-season. He has scored in pre-season against Newcastle, which is a good sign. So I may stick with Brennan Johnson. Originally, though, I did have Morgan Rogers in this position. I had a bit of concern when he had that injury risk scare, but it turns out he's probably going to be absolutely fine. He's had a price rise to 7 million, which I think is more reflective of what he is capable of. The biggest draw to him, aside from his attacking output, is the amount of minutes he'll play. Last season, he did not miss a game. When everyone was saying he's going to get rested at some point, it just didn't happen. Well, actually, he did miss one game, but that was only because he was suspended. And now that Rashford and Asensio have left, there's also way less competition for his spot. So this could, again, change to Morgan Rogers instead. But Johnson, for an opening fixture against Burnley, they're playing at home. They're coming off the back of a nice win. Hopefully, under Frank, they're feeling a bit more motivated, excited. It's a fresh start. And it would be really nice to have Brennan Johnson getting a brace on the opening game week. And it's a player that I'm excited about. That is the midfield. Then we have got my front three, which is probably the set of players that I'm most excited about. We've got Strand Larsen, Ollie Watkins and Bowen. Starting off with Strand Larsen, I really liked him last season. Last pre-season, I wrote an article for Scouts looking at Wolves and talking about their new signings, and Strand Larsen just stood out to me massively. Unfortunately, my enthusiasm did get the best of me, so I brought him in and he didn't do much, took him out and he went on a really good run. So I didn't time it very well, but I think he could be this season's Chris Wood. He's nailed on starting as number 9 and he showed he could step up when Cunha is out. With Cunha leaving Wolves, I think it is Strand Larsen's time to shine. I've seen people bench him in Gameweek 1 because they play against City, but I would like to kindly remind you that last season they played against City and he scored in the 8th minute. And that was something that really stood out to me because I had just transferred him out. And I'll also caveat that with the fact that Wolves did then go on to lose 2-1. But Strand Larsen's got on the score sheet and that's all that matters. It's the first home game of the season. I think it's worth a punt and I would like to get him before he goes off on a mad one and his ownership flies through the roof. So let's have him as a differential. Feeling good about him this season. Then we've got Ollie Watkins. He's one of those players that just ticks along and I think I sometimes take him for granted. He had another impressive season with 16 goals and 8 assists. He was also joint with Haaland for big chances with 40 in total. I like the fixtures for Villa. He's been fantastic in pre-season and I'm going to try not to overthink this spot and talk myself out of it. Again, let's bring in some proven assets. We know they can do well. Ollie Watkins, 2 seasons in a row now, been absolutely great. And he's that coverage. If I don't go for Morgan Rogers, I can stick with Watkins. Newcastle at home on the opening day, feeling fine about that. And then Bowen. Bowen has come in fairly recently, and this is the forward position that I think is most likely to change. Little bit tempted to transfer him out for someone cheaper and I can invest a bit more in my midfield or maybe upgrade with some of my bench options, which we will come to. And you may look at them and say, you could do with upgrading there. Or I could go down to Chris Wood and upgrade Anderson. However, he's been reclassified as a forward this season and he plays against Sunderland in Gameweek 1. He's looked strong in pre-season and he's scored 2 goals. And he also saved me towards the end of last season. So again, I've got some fond memories with him. And looking at this team as a whole, having Brennan Johnson and Bowen against promoted sides, that just makes me a little bit more keen for the start of the season and having those assets that could go absolutely mad. But if they don't, I'm a little bit stuck and I'll have to wait for some transfers to be able to move them along. And then we can have a look at my bench. I'm not a fan of this bench and I didn't really want to show you all, but here we are. So Dubravka is there and actually, to be fair, he has saved me. He stepped up when no one else would because originally I just had King there purely for his name and to sit forever. But Dubravka, who knows, he might end up being the star of the show. We will see. Then we've got Belabor. Now, this is a pick. Firstly, I think is fun, but there might be a bit too much fun in this team, so we might need to reassess that level. And he's not a standout option for attacking returns. He only registered 1 goal and 3 assists last season, but he does look good for defensive contribution points. And I know I said I won't go on about DEFCON, but I read one article and now it's my whole personality. He would have had 30 points across 31 starts last season. So it could be worth going for him. And I also think this season, Brighton might be going a little bit under the radar. None of their players cost more than 6.5 million and there may be a hidden gem somewhere. Their goals are also really spread out, which surprised me, with Brighton having goals scored by 17 different players last season, but not one player scored more than 10. So who knows? Maybe this is hopefully more than a week, the season where Belabor is a breakout star. If you spoke to Az, he'd probably say that's not going to happen. I shouldn't have him in there, but here we are. An alternative is Sarr, who's looked good in pre-season, scoring twice against Wycombe Wanderers and once against Arsenal. He should also be decent for DEFCON points. Well, I keep going on about DEFCON. Maybe I will. And now we've got Grahey. Now this one, I wanted Munoz, can't afford him. Probably need to work out a way to find him. So this could just be a placeholder for now, and I might rejig the team. Palace assets as a whole are a bit of a mystery to me at the moment. But like I said, we have got the Community Shield later today. So hopefully that shines a light on what I should do. But Grahey, I didn't quite realise how wild he was last season. My best friend's a Palace fan and she absolutely loves Gahey. And I think I just said Grahey because she says that. So I thought I'd bring him in for that. But he managed to get 7 yellow cards, 1 red card, and score 3 own goals. So maybe we won't go for him. I mean, he did keep 11 clean sheets, scored 3 goals in the right net and get 2 assists. So at least there is some sort of attack there. But I think the 3 own goals, 1's a mistake, 2's unfortunate, 3, come on, are you even trying? So I think Grahey, it's safe to say, will not remain there. But to bring back my Brighton propaganda, De Kuiper. He is cheap, he is cheerful, he's come in to replace Estupiñán, and I know Brighton's defence isn't the best. They only managed to keep 8 clean sheets last season, and I do wonder if Hertzler will have to reassess the high line this season, but he does like to play that way, so maybe not. But the early indications look positive. Brighton haven't lost any games in pre-season yet, and De Kuiper scored a goal, which is even more reason to go for him. I probably should have just put him in, shouldn't I, rather than Gahey, who's managed to get 3 own goals. That is absolutely ridiculous. And then Pembele, just the cheapest way to fill that spot. I know this is a weak bench, I know, but I want to attack the start of the season and then we'll think about benching. Obviously not bench boosting anytime soon. So on the whole, looking at this team, how much is safe? How much is a risk? How much is fun? I don't think the balance is quite yet there. I think Anderson, Johnson, Strand Larsen, Bowen, and then the bench are probably, that's too much risk. And I might need to go for more steady options. Even Porro up there. Oh, this is a disaster, isn't it? No, I think I'll watch the Community Shield, see how I feel, record a video, let you know my thoughts, and then go from there. I do want to get an Arsenal attacker, and I'm tempted to find a way to wedge Saka into my team. He didn't have a standout season last year thanks to his injury, and he only started 20 matches. But in that time, he did average 5.8 points per start. And the season started off really strong with him, with 11 assists in the first 13 matches. I might sit on this one for a little bit because they've also got Gyökeres and penalties might be shared. I don't know. Gyökeres, though, he does appeal to me. So there's a lot still to assess. This team has nothing in the bank, obviously unlimited transfers, not using a chip. And I'm just glad, to be honest, that I've got a starting 11 out and I've managed to record my thoughts. Sorry if you're still here listening to me ramble. But that's the team and changes will be made, but at least we are one step closer to finalising everything. So if you're new here, please subscribe. I will try not to ramble quite as much and go on about DEFCON points. And I will hopefully see you in the next video. Bye, guys.